to congratulate and taking up important research topics as far as the diatoms are concerned. So with these few words, I welcome you, sir, and handing over the session to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Thanks for inviting. And okay, so today, thanks for inviting, and then thanks for the wonderful introduction. Today, that entire forenoon session will be divided into 3 parts. The first, I will give one lecture on introduction to diatoms and their various applications, and subsequently Vigneshwaran will give about the some of the taxonomic characters of diatoms, and then third part will be we will be having a live demo of how to prepare slides and how to observe it, and then we will connect the computer with the microscope so you can see some of the screen slides collected from different part of the country. And so each of the session is going to be close to 45 minutes to 1 hour, and since we have very limited number of participants, you feel free to stop us anytime, you either you raise your hand or so it's the main objective of this session is to convey what we know. That's the main objective. So you don't have to worry about anything. We can keep it as informal as possible. If Dr. Chandrasekhar have invited me to come to Madurai, I would have happy to do that, but I have some this year-end work is going on, so that's why I couldn't. Otherwise, I would have happily come to Madurai and spend time with you all. I would have happily done that, but because of this March madness, we call it as March madness. After 15th of March, we have to finish all these accounts and this submitting SCUC and things like that. This will, tomorrow when you become a PI, you will understand this pain. So, so you will. That's what prevented me from coming there. Otherwise, I would have come there. I remember only one thing with my only connection with Madurai Kamaraj University is I applied there for my masters, and I got shortlisted, and then I went for interview. I got shortlisted. I went for the group discussion and all, and unfortunately, I couldn't make out into the final thing, so I didn't get through into MKU. But still, I love that place, particularly the hills behind your campus is very interesting hills. In terms of biodiversity wise, also in terms of cultural wise, there are so many ancient Jain inscriptions are there in those temple. It's very, those who are not from Madurai, please visit this small mountain. It's having a lot of cultural and biodiversity value in this mountain. So usually when we talk about biodiversity, we always think about whether we have to go to Western Ghats or whether we have to go to Eastern Himalayas. There are tigers there. There are elephants there. So we have this this mentality where we always go to this place to see biodiversity. Not necessarily we have to go to these places. There are so many lesser known biodiversity component. Even this, we always like green, rain green. Not necessarily it has to be there. For example, this mountain, this small hillock behind your university have a lot of unknown biodiversity also there. For example, the best known example is there is a this garden lizard, which is there are new species of garden lizard described from this area very recently by one of my friend Deepak. He works currently at the Natural History Museum. He had described this. There is a Satana. There is a genus called Satana. In that, he have described many species from and then towards Tirunelveli, when we travel from Madurai to Tirunelveli from those regions. So we have a kind of preconceived notion these places are not very interesting in terms of biodiversity. So one of the lesser known group is diatom. So we will get into the diatoms. Let me share my slides. So please feel free. I think this mic is not mute, no? So if I can see, I will. You can. I think it's echoing.
Yes, sir. There's an echo. I will unmute the mic whenever you want to ask questions.
Okay. So if somebody want to ask a question or something, either if I am watching your videos, then just you can raise. Otherwise, you can put in the comment section, or anybody have any question, we can stop and then go. There is nothing. We are hardly like 15 people. We can have more interactive session than like I'm just moving after slide after other. Present now. Window. Okay. Hope you all can see my slides, right? Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. So if anybody want to, I cannot see your video. I can see only my slides. So I'm just going to talk to my computer. So if you want to stop anytime, please feel free to do that. Okay. Don't hesitate. Please tell the person who is organizing it, and we can stop and then go from there. Okay. So the title of my talk is going to be looking at living glass houses. So I call diatoms as glass houses. This is the glass house which we traditionally what we know. These are usually associated with some botanical garden where they keep the plants inside this glass house so they can receive the sunlight and all those things. So I call this also a glass houses because now it looks black in color. Actually, it's a silicon SiO2, the same chemical composition which made that glass also. So diatoms are made up of silica cell wall. So technically they looks like glass only. So that's why we call living glass houses. These glass houses come in variety of shapes and size and designs we call. So there are n number of shapes and sizes are there in diatoms. So when we look at this, it looks like there is no life in it. Usually our assumption about life is associated with the green color or some brown color or something like that. It should have some chloroplast, or if it is animal, it will have some tissues and things like that. So this doesn't seem to have any of those things. So what we here, it looks like without any of those things it's there, but these are all dead diatoms. Just excuse me 1 minute. So, but these are all dead diatom, that's why we don't see. But when we collect the diatom, when we see them alive, they look like this. So we see this. This is the silica cell wall. If you can follow my cursor, and then inside you have this chloroplast structures and all there. Like you can see this vacuoles, and then this lipid bodies, and then these are different shapes of chloroplast. Like here you will see bundles of chloroplast. Here it is elongated chloroplast. So this is how they look like. Since we identify diatom based on the silica cell wall. So we remove all this organic material inside the cell as well as outside the cell. So everything we will remove it. So that's why they look like this. So we will see about more in detail in the subsequent slides and then later in the practical session. Okay. So diatoms are a type of algae. They come under the big group called algae. When we see algae, this is a most diverse group of organism which we can see. Diverse in terms of multiple things, in terms of their chemical composition, in terms of their shape and size and so on. It's a huge variety of life are come under algae. One example is, for example, if you see on my left, you see this big macroalgae. We call it like seaweed, which can run into hundreds of meters. The size can run into hundreds of meters. On the other side, you are seeing a small section of blue-green algae, which is hardly few microns. So this is the variety of algae which we will see. So in this algal group, there are so many in this entire tree of life. What you are seeing is everything, whatever we see from land plant to animals to other things. So if you divide this entire thing into two sections, no, if I draw a line here, if you follow my cursor, if I draw a line here, so entire left section is algae. So that much diverse group of organism, starting from blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, euglena, and then chrysophytes, green algae, diatoms, and so on. So there are so many groups of algae. All are classified based on their pigments and then storage material, what kind of food storage material they have. So algae is so diverse, they are represented both in eukaryotes as well as prokaryotes. In cyanobacteria, which is also known as blue-green algae, which comes under prokaryotes, and all other algae, which comes under eukaryote. So if you the yellow highlighted area is diatom, which is a type of algae. So what makes diatom very special? They are unicellular golden brown algae. So their pigments are golden brown color, which is a combination of chloroplast and carotenoids, and then so there are some more diatom specific pigments which give them the golden brown color. If you remember a few slides before, so this when we look in the live cells, they have this golden brown coloration. That's why we call golden brown color, and their cell walls are made up of silica. So you see this cell wall structure. This is a scanning electron micrograph. So which is showing the it's made up of two walls. One is upper and then bottom, like a soap box. So we'll see that more in detail in the subsequent slide. So they live solitary. Same thing when if I go back to my few slides back, so they can live solitary. Like if you see this one, no, they are living as a single cell. And otherwise, they can make a filament. So here you can see one diatom, another one, and you can see the filaments. Or here this centric diatom makes a big filaments, and they reproduce very rapidly. So the doubling times is like ranging from few minutes to some very rarely some divide after few hours, few minutes, few hours, and then some are like in the very harsh conditions like ice lakes. They even divide after few years also. And they are found in any wet place. If you name any wet place, diatoms are there. So to name a few, rivers, lake, your sewage pond, ditches, and marine environment, ocean, deep ocean, hot water springs, and then inside the ice, you name any wet place, diatoms will be there. And what make them more interesting is they are environmental specific. So whatever you get in a river, you don't get it in a lake. Or whatever you get in a lake and river, you don't get it in a marine environment or brackish environment. And different regions of oceans also. So like say we have Pacific, Atlantic, Indian Oceans are three major oceans. So there also we have a different set of diatoms. Each have its own set of diatoms. So that's what makes the diatoms as more and more interesting. So as I mentioned, like they are like a soap box. So you can see this is two cells. These two cells are made up of silica. So one is like a bottom. It's like exactly like a petri dish. So we do a lot of microbiological experiments using petri plate. So this looks exactly like that. And when we when we magnify further, then we can see more in detail characters. So here you can see the pore structure. So we call it as areolae. And then further details we see for the identification of diatoms. So I call diatoms as a microorganism with macro function. So I'm just going to end my show now. I will start looking at you again now. Okay, stop presenting. Okay. So I will request all of you take a deep breath. Maybe you can do that for four times. I'm not going to ask anybody to talk, so you can put in the mute only, not a problem. And what was the breakfast today, morning breakfast?
Pongal.
Pongal is very dangerous breakfast.
Sir, today I eating Pongal.
So Pongal with sambar it's like that is equivalent to anesthesia. Even we can do open heart surgery now, you will not even realize. So that's why I decided to, like, otherwise in one time, at least when we talk in real time, we can see that, what you are doing, like whether somebody is sleeping or not. But now I don't even see what is happening. So I will be looking at my screen and then talking. So you are in sedated stage with Pongal and sambar. Okay. So just a minute. So the other don't worry about the other windows. That's like they are setting up the lab computers and things for the today's event. Okay, so let us take deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we all inhaled oxygen right now and then gave carbon dioxide, right? So where this oxygen comes from? Most plants. So I would say that last breath which you take now, which you took, that come exclusively from diatom. So diatom makes almost 25% of global oxygen. So every fourth breath which you take, the oxygen comes from diatom exclusively. So this is one of the most significant organism, because imagine if diatom stop working for 10 minutes, no, we'll all not be able to breathe, right? So it's one of the most significant group of organism in life. So that's why usually people ask, so why we have to study diatom? Because this is something very, very important to study. So every 15-20 minutes, I will switch off my presentation and come back to see if I'll have a candidate to do bypass surgery without anesthesia. So when we started looking into diatoms, the first diatom was done 1703 by Mr. C, who have described these. On your left, you will see this diatoms picture. So this is the first time somebody have observed diatom. And subsequently, Ehrenberg in 1853-54, he have reported many diatoms from India. So somebody collected sample and sent to Ehrenberg. Ehrenberg is a very famous microbiologist of 18th century. So if you can see this, all these highlighted points in this page. So he have collected, he got samples from Western Ghats, Nilgiri, Srirangapatnam, Malabar, Pondicherry, Tranquebar, Mangalore. So he got samples from various places from various parts of India, and he described many new species in this. So diatoms are India's first observed microorganism. I can say very confidently. I don't think anybody did microbiological work before 1854. So some fun facts about diatoms are like, these are all Victorian diatom art slides. So these slides have these diatoms are arranged in this manner by under the microscope, and it is sold by some microscopy slide shops. So you can, this whatever you are seeing in this owl, everything is individual diatom. So these individual diatoms are arranged in a manner to give a look of this owl or this Rangoli pattern. So there are more than 50,000 types of species of diatoms are there, but estimated is more than 2 million. They are they show a diverse, extremely diverse group of organisms, and they are the base of the aquatic food chain. So all small insects and then tadpoles and small fishes eat diatoms as a food source. So they form the base of the food chain. And then we get many valuable products from diatoms such as omega-3 fatty acids, biofuel, and so on. So where to look for diatom? We can collect diatom from, as I mentioned earlier, any wet place. Here you have this stones filled with the diatom biofilm, brown color growth, and then plants with diatoms and planktonic diatoms in sediments and inside the moss, and this leakages, seepages in the rocky area you can see. And in detail you can see this in a stream, the stones filled with this brown color diatom growth, and these diatoms are eaten by tadpoles. So you can see here these tadpoles eating these diatoms. And in this picture you see this entire this root system, or like some of the leaves of this aquatic plants is filled with diatom growth. So you can see how everywhere this brown growth, which is nothing but diatom. And here you are seeing this wooden log inside a stream. It's covered with enormous growth of diatom, this brown color growth. And again another one picture showing here this bottom of the stream filled with diatom growth. We are collecting this diatom with a pipette. So we are collecting this diatom with the pipette. So apart from that, like anything which is in contact with water, so there also we can see diatom. As you see in this picture, many of these aquatic plants are, the plant surface are used by diatom as a habitat. Not only it has to be a plant surface, even we can collect, sometimes when we don't get any of these kind of habitats, we collect diatom even from thrown plastic bottle, floating thermocol, even this thrown shoe, slippers also sometimes we pick and then scrap it for the diatoms. So this is a this 2 to 7 and 8 to 14. These are different species of diatom. So these are culture diagrams. Sorry. So one of our student Neha, she works on phylogeny of this one particular genus of diagram called Stauronis. We bring the diagram to the lab and then she pick single diagram and then she culture it and then she document the morphological variation within one genus, both understanding the cell wall morphology and also understanding the chloroplast morphology for identification. So how do we look into diatom? When we collect, when we see a live diatom, they look like this. As I showed in the previously also, it will look like this. You will see the shape on the outline shape, and then you will see this chloroplast structure. Sometimes you will see this lipid vacuole. So here you can see this vacuoles of lipids here everywhere. So that will not enable us to look into the silica cell wall. So what we have to do is we need to clean it. We need to cook it. So what we do, we take this, we collect the diatom and we boil them in the strong acids such as nitric acid or hydrochloric acid. So these we boil them in this acid and then centrifuge them. What happened? All the organic material will get washed away. So finally we get pure inorganic material, pure silica we get. So when we look them, it looks like this, and then when we look into the scanning electron microscope, they will look like this. So the same picture I showed previously, the same sample, you do this digestion, acid digestion or cleaning or oxidation, and then when you take a picture, so you will be able to see this more ultra structures, these internal structures. So here, each of these figures are single diatoms. So they were taken and then cropped and then arranged in a way so we can see the entire size series. After looking into this light microscopic detail, this is all done in a normal microscope at a 100x. So the magnification is 1000 time magnification. The same diatom, when we take it to a scanning electron microscope, then we will see the ultra structure details of. So you might be remember that I mentioned that it's like a soap box or a Petri plate. So it have a outside, when I open it have an inside. So this left side is the outside view, and then right side is the inside view of this. So for another diatom, we are presenting both outside view and also the same diatom in the inside, how it looks. That's what we are presenting it here. So oops. Is everybody with me? So till now,
I have a question from the last image that we showed.
Sorry?
I have a question from the last image that you showed.
Sure, please tell me.
So you mentioned that it looks like a soap box, but how did you make a cross section of the diatom so that you can look both inside or outside? Was it natural or?
So what happened? It's like this soap box, right? So we just opened it. So when we do this acid cleaning, by default it opens up.
Okay.
It will become like this. So we don't make a cross section of cutting. We don't do this cutting. We just some diatom. This soap box is attached by a small mechanical attachment. It is like it is like this. So it is like this attachment. So they just opens up by disturbance only. So we don't have to do anything, any special extra effort to divide to open it up. Sometime what happened, we have to open it up because we want to see the internal structure. So we give a mild sonication. If they are not opening, then we will just give mild sonication, then it will open up. If you give little bit more sonication, then it will become powder and like it will become fragments.
Thank you. And you said that it's colorless, but in the other slide, it's comparatively yellow or green kind of thing? Is it because of the chemical or?
So if you see a live diatom, they have color. They have golden. Pigment get oxidized. They all get digested. So then it will become a color. Okay.
Sir, is there any process to identify in open eyes the diatom or differentiate from other algae like Phaeophytes?
It is not possible because whatever the picture which I showed, it is not only diatom. It's a biofilm which will have other algae also. It will have bacteria and all. But there is no as such some naked eye clues to find out diatoms only.
There is no any indication that this place might be have some diatom.
No, anywhere there is a brown growth or green growth is there, you will find diatom in there.
Is it possible to diatom situated upon living fish, wounded fish?
Yeah.
Fish?
So there is a separate group of diatom called epizooic diatom. They always grow on top of animals, such as many of these turtles have its own set of diatoms growing on the back of the turtles. Recently, last week, there was a paper, somebody described a new species of diatom from the sea snake. They attach to the like a growth happening on the outer surface of the sea snake. Likewise, you can find there are diatoms in whales, diatoms in frogs also, and just in the outside the skin of frog, you can find diatoms in that also.
How does silicate helpful for its inorganic compound? How does it helpful for diatoms, and how it is getting digested for second the consumer of the diatom, and how will silicate enhance the photosynthesis that is covered diatom?
Okay, so this question I will answer in multiple parts. So diatoms are known to occur since Jurassic. So the previous the organism which was predecessor to diatom are known as Ur diatom. They don't have this sophisticated silica cell wall. So the hypothesis is more like they must be living in a swampy environment and they want to have some strong material to prevent them from getting frequent attack by other microorganisms or something like that. So they developed the mechanism using a silica. Why silica? For two reasons. Silica is the most abundantly available material. And second thing, being a photosynthetic organism, you don't want something which will stop the sunlight coming in. So you have to have a transparent material. All other material is going to block the sunlight passage. So they choose silica. So how diatom make the silica cell wall? Diatom have a series of process for taking the silicic acid from the environment and converting into SiO2 and make this silica cell wall. Mainly done by the silica depositing vesicles. So they have the mechanism to take the silicic acid from outside environment and convert into SiO2 and then start laying over this silica cell wall. So if we have this, something happens to us or any other animals, nothing happens because it's an inert material. By default, we are having so much silica we intake a lot of silica, so it will go inside and come out, unless maybe some micro invertebrate, if they overeat diatoms, when we observe under the microscope, sometimes they overeat diatoms, so they will be having like this big cell wall can damage the stock of microinvertebrates. So we have seen many times what happens is microinvertebrate, without having control, they eat lot of diatoms. So sometimes what happens is diatom will come from one side of their digestive system. So that is the only harmful harm a diatom can do to the other animals. Any other question? Just give me a 1 minute break, and I'll come back.
Sure.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I'm back. So we'll go back to the presentation now.
There are two questions.
Sir,
Okay. Just a minute, I'll come back. Yeah, tell me.
what is the substrate for given to the diatoms for culturing of diatoms in laboratory conditions?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
You are culturing and diatoms in your laboratory means what is the food for diatoms substrate?
So it's a very simple media which is having nutrients, mainly nitrate, phosphates, and silicates, and we imitate the outside condition. We put it like in the tissue culture lab, you will see like 12-hour day and 12-hour night time.
Yes.
The same kind of condition we create. Like in the laboratory part, you will see the culturing setup of
Okay.
diet. Yes, thank you.
In nearby, near Madurai, in Madurai, one pond, the Daphnia only present in the ponds. What is the possibility, sir?
What is present?
Daphnia, the plankton Daphnia is only alone in the pond.
So usually what happen, no? This rain shadow region of Tamil Nadu, particularly Madurai, Ramanathapuram, Shivagangai, these district and all, they have this concept of kammai, this village ponds. So these village ponds are having direct contact with the villagers. So cattle will be drinking water, villagers will be washing clothes and all those things. So it's a kind of disturbed ecosystem. So it's a mesotrophic to eutrophic conditions. It will be always in those conditions. So Daphnia can tolerate high level of pollution. So all other microinvertebrates, they cannot survive this disturbed condition. So that's why they live. So these ponds will get nutrient enrichment from cattle dung, and then people will be washing clothes there. So it gives these two activities a lot of nitrogen phosphates.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Just a minute, I'll share it now. So this is one of the oldest known signs, but still lesser known signs. If you see, that first description of a diatom species happened in 1700. Sorry, this graph shows this is x-axis is year, and then y-axis is number of species described per year. So if you see here, the first description is 1785 or something like that. So even if we keep it like our first description is 1800, so sorry, we have almost 220 years of research, but still, if you see the final graph now, it's still in going, like we are yet to describe many more new species. We haven't came to a plateau stage where there is no more new species of diatoms are there. There are species described almost every other day. We have new species of diatoms are coming. In our lab, what we do, we study diatom from all over the India. So if you see in this graph, in this map, we show this, all these red dots are from where we collected samples. So we mainly focus on Western Ghats and Himalayas, particularly the Eastern Himalayas, because they are biodiversity hotspot. Nevertheless, we also study diatom from all other part of the country. Like you can see many in Maharashtra, and whenever I come home, so we collect samples from in and around my. I'm from Rasipuram, near. It's around 200 kilometers from where you are located. Those who are from Tamil Nadu, they know this place, and those who are from outside, it's a place near Salem. So that's where I am from. So we collect samples from this, and then like near Delhi area and some part of Leh, Ladakh, Jammu, Kashmir, and then a lot of work from Sikkim, and then other parts of the northeastern India. So we call diatoms are also life in extreme. I just want to present two cases where on your left side you will see this Lonar Crater Lake, which is a soda lake, alkaline soda lake, where the pH will be more than 9. Usually it will be 10, 11 pH also. So this is like, extremely alkaline condition. On the other hand, you will see these are the Myristica swamps in the Western Ghats. So these swamps are located close to Kutralam area on the Western Ghats. So their pH is extremely acidic. It can go up to 4 pH. So in both the cases, you will see diatoms, and that too new species of diatom, because nobody has studied diatom in detail from India. So wherever we study, we end up describing new species of diatom in any extreme. So here I'm giving an example of a pH, but we can find diatom from cold to hot water. We can find diatom from extremely clean to extremely polluted water. Like, this again, these are all like end up in many describing many new species of diatom. So almost 40% of diatom what we see are new to science. We end up describing many new species. Our lab described more than 50 new species of diatoms from various parts of India. Even this new genus called Glucovistia from the lateritic plateaus of Maharashtra. We have described this new genus. Apart from the aquatic system, we also looking into aerophilic or aerophytic or semi-aquatic diatom. We call these are the moss growing on the tree, which is not having any direct connection with the river or a stream or a lake. This moss will absorb some moisture, and this moisture is more than enough to support diatom. So recently we found many interesting diatoms from the aerophilic habitats of different part of the country. So one of the main feature of diatoms are they are environmental specific. This environmental means they are specific to a physical nature, such as temperature, water current, and so on, and also chemical like nutrients. Some diatom will live in less nutrients, some diatom will live in more nutrients, and so on. So condition. So we have we can use this diatom as a proxy to find out whether this place is a clean water or a polluted water. Since some diatoms prefer only clean water, so we can use them as an indicator of a clean water. Likewise, indicator of a polluted water, or indicator of a moderately polluted, or indicator of a temperature, or indicator of acidic nature. So we can use this tool as a environmental monitoring tool. For example, in this picture, no, you are seeing somebody had got this this bottle which was floating in the sea, and this bottle had this notes, and based on these notes, they found they found this in November 2020, and based on these notes and dates in the notes, they found this notes belongs to 103-year-old, and they made these notes and put it in this glass bottle and then sealed it. So if they have just put these notes somewhere, it would have been degraded. But since they have put inside this glass bottle, so this glass is very difficult to to degrade. It takes thousands of years to degrade a glass. So because of this glass, so we could able to get this information about that, like who is writing and to whom they are writing and what is the content and all those things we are getting. So likewise, diatoms are also made up of glass. So these glass have some information. So what kind of place they are living and so on. So diatoms also, if there is a lake and there are diatoms living there and they die and they get settled in the sediment. So you come and retrieve the sediments after 50 years, and you can go back in 50 years and you can tell what was the diatoms. Based on the diatom, we can reconstruct the environment. So we did that for a place called Khas Plateau. It's a very famous place for flowering in near Pune. So what we have done, we took this core, we made a trench, and so this trench means select a lake, and then you take a trench in the lake, and then you take sediments. So over for the 2 meter, this is 2 meter pit we made, and then from this pit we collected samples. So this pit will show the from this pit we take the sediments, and from this pit, from the sediment we extract diatoms, and then we count diatom from bottommost to topmost, and then see what are all the changes in the diatom. For example, here we have classified diatom into 3 groups: red, orange, and green. And this red is a pollution indicator, and this orange is a moderate, and this green is a clean water. So, and what apart from this diatom, we also dated these sediments. So this is around, this place is around 7,600 years, 2,600 years, and 2,500 years. So here, what happened? Until very recently, this diatom was dominating this place, and then it got disappeared from here, and then this entire, most of this diatom, it got replaced by this one particular species of diatom. So this diatom was never there for the last 8,000 years. So when humans started using this lake, then this diatom started appearing here. When humans started using this lake, they started disturbing, and then they made this place inhabitable for a clean diatom, and then the pollution tolerant diatom started appearing in this place. So likewise, we also try to do diatom from in other places. So we can in Ladakh region. So where in this study we have identified how the environmental changes is reflected by various groups of diatom. This work is done by Dr. Fartial from Birbal Sahni Institute of Paleo Sciences. So we helped with diatom part in this work. So apart from this hardcore research, we also do some fun activities using diatoms. So we have a multilingual, free diatom-based environmental monitoring program. It's called SimRiver. This is available in many languages, including Tamil, Hindi, Kannada, Marathi. So what we do is we do this demonstration in the schools. So we go to the schools and we make the student to virtually collect samples in different part of the river, and then they will identify diatoms using this guide, and then they compute how many percentage of pollution tolerant and then how many are pollution sensitive. And so we do a lot of this environmental education program at school. So while doing that, we give the questionnaires to the students, and then they fill this questionnaire, and then we take a questionnaire after this. If you see, before this, they're using this program. So they're usually their questions are related to their the words which they use are related to very simple words, and they don't have awareness about the environment and things like that. But after this survey, after this program, if you give the same questionnaire and their opinion about the river and lake changed completely. So they started giving new terminologies, like, you know, before that nobody used like sewage treatment plant, for example. Like I'm just mentioning, like, you know, after that they are using polluted, and then river environment awareness, and diatoms, water body, sewage. So they are trying, we are using this as a tool to increase their awareness for diatoms. Apart from this, we also use this tool called Foldscope, which is a paper microscope for visualizing any microorganism. Particularly, you can use it for any microorganism. We use in our environmental awareness programs. So one of the most popular user of Foldscope is in Madurai only. I will see if I can talk to him. I don't know how many days this workshop is there, Otherwise, I will talk to the program organizers also. If possible, I will ask him to visit and demonstrate Foldscope to all the users. I will maybe Soundarajan or somebody can call me after the program. So I will talk to this is a school teacher called Mo Pandirajan from Madurai. He demonstrate Foldscope, so he can bring it to you. So he's very good, so he can bring it to you also. You can see the students using this Foldscope and made this wonderful drawings. And apart from understanding this, diatoms are also very helpful in various forms. A lot of applications are there in diatoms. For example, diatoms are used as a biofuel in algae-based biofuel, and vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids are made by diatoms. And then finally, Nobel Prize. I will tell the Nobel Prize story later. So there are a lot of research happening on applications of diatoms in biofuel. So diatom seems to be having a very promising future in terms of biofuels, because diatoms store a lot of lipid fatty acids, so in the form of lipid droplets. So these droplets are having both biofuel and also nutraceutical potential. And this is like, even there is a proverb in Tamil says like when elephant is alive, no, it costs a lot of money, and even elephant is dead also it costs a lot of money. Like that, there is a problem like that. Diatoms are also same thing, even though they're not comparable in terms of size, but still they have the same application. These are dead diatoms settled down in the ocean, so they are called as diatomaceous earth. So these diatomaceous earths are mined, and when you see a diatomaceous earth, they looks like this, and they are used in many filtering, many filters, and then barbecue grills. And this diatomaceous earth is used by Alfred Nobel for making this dynamite, and that gave a lot of money, fortune to Nobel family. So that is what you use today to give Nobel Prize. So diatom is behind all the amazing science, supporting amazing science across the world. And diatoms are also used in many aspects of human health. As such, diatoms, the diatoms are used in tissue engineering, especially bone tissue engineering, and also in many nano medicine applications, and also as a hemostatic agent to control the blood loss. As I mentioned, there are many algae-based omega-3 fatty acid. So diatoms are one of the most important thing. And finally, I would like to conclude this with one interesting thing. So again, those who are from outside, if you get a time and if you get a chance, please go and visit Keeladi, which is one of the prehistoric site, which is comparable to the Harappan sites, where there is a lot of histories there. So we see diatom from those archaeological point of view also. We see diatom from Neolithic pottery. So this gives information about like where these potteries are, like whether these pots are made by locally or outside, and so on, and like whether it is made from fresh water or a brackish water clay. So all those things can be found using diatoms in archaeology also. Like these are some of the application of diatoms in archaeological work. So with this, I conclude my talk, and thanks to all the students. So all the work here presented was done by my students. The core work, the paleo work was done by Mittal, and then most of the images shown by are done by Neha and Radha. And today session will be conducted by Vignesh and Kokila and Yogi. And we have other students like Shirley, Ferosa. There are many other students who will be part of today's work. So, so now we can ask questions and then we can have a minute break and we can come back to the lab session, which will be done by Vignesh. Vicky? Vicky?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes.
I will introduce Vicky to the participants. Vicky is a PhD student.
Yeah.
So he will, okay, he will be doing the laboratory demo. Vicky, you show your face.
Yeah, just a minute. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is Vignesh. Vignesh will be taking care of the laboratory demo and all those things. I'll be coming in between and going. So if you have any questions for today's session, we can have those questions. Then we'll take a 10-15 minutes break. And then we can resume back for the lab session. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So we'll resume back at 11:20, sir, or 11:50.
See, you are going to sit, so I have no problem.
So we'll resume back at 11:20, sir.
Okay, 11:20.
Yes, sir.
So the same. So this link will keep active only, right?
Yes, sir. It will be active. It will be on. So we can continue.
Okay. And is there any question for the later part of my presentation?
Yeah. Yes, we have questions. So, so you said that like it's not that good for planktons if they like eat too much these diatoms.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
So, as these diatoms are made up of silica, these planktons, I mean, other planktons, if they eat, it's not that good, as you mentioned. So, how do you see like these diatoms, like if some other animals, if they feed, so will they able to digest that diatoms, or like? And you also mentioned that some of the diatoms are common in some animals' back, like turtles and other kind of animals. So, like, does the diatoms help them in any other way, like a camouflage or, yeah, what kind of association you see?
A symbiotic relation or the commensalism.
Okay. So, as such, nothing will happen by eating diatom. It's not a pathogenic and nothing will happen. And almost all microinvertebrates thrive on diatom as the food. They are the main food source. So, nothing bad is going to happen. Since scanning electron microscopy is looking like big and they look like something mission. So we always have the impression that it is going to go and get stuck somewhere in the intestine or something like that. So that is nothing that. So there is no worry. All tadpoles, completely, most of the tadpoles completely depend on diatoms. And the second question was on, what was it? Sorry.
So, as you mentioned, some of the diatoms are like very unique.
Yeah. So there are, is any symbiotic relationship or something? I don't think like they are just growing on the carapace of turtles, so they are not and they don't eat anything from the turtle, so they just stay and then go around with them. So maybe diatoms get benefited because they get to come to light. Otherwise, they will stay somewhere in maybe sometime in dark. So only I think there is damage the cafe, something like that. So there is no mutual relationship.
Sir,
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Is there any relationship of founding of mineral oil and the stagnation of diatom in the ocean region?
I didn't get. Can you please repeat? Sorry.
I'm asking that is there any relationship of discovery of mineral oil with the stagnation of diatom in the ocean region? Is there any relationship founding of natural oil?
Yes, like so. Some geological report says that whatever the rich crude oil what we get, they are all diatom before. They are diatom rich lake before they got converted into oil. That is one thing. And then second thing is, so diatom at a different geological time scale, different diatoms were very dominant. So when we are drilling, diatoms are used as a indicator of time. Okay, whether we have reached Eocene time, whether we reached Miocene time, we have reached Pleistocene time. So diatoms are used as a indicator of a time. So during the earlier 20th century, when there were so many oil wells are dig in America, North America, in USA. So that time they were using diatom as an indicator of the to find out the time. So diatom helped a lot in exploration of oil.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. In mineral sites and also some of the sites having this mining activity, how about the diversity, sir? Is there any connection, or it is there any specific important information like diatom diversity, different for example, Sivakasi, lot of metal industries, and is there any diversity changes or like that, chromium, nickel, and all this oil content rich in this area? And the another is this Salem, we have this mining activity which happening. So is there any diatom specific or like that? Can I?
So there are two kinds of mining. One Sorry, connection got lost. Okay. Question regarding the mining. So there are two kinds of mining. One mining, there are one mining which just put lot of dissolved and suspended solid in the water. So this kind of mining will increase the conductivity, mineral content in the water. So that triggers to change in the diatom composition. So those who can tolerate more mineral and more sedimentation and more turbidity, only they will survive. There is a other kind of mining which is happening in Northeast India, particularly different part of Meghalaya. So there is a drainage called acid mine drainage. So there is the pH get reduced to even around 4 to 5. So that all to acidophilic diatom flora. So in mining, mining water, different part of the world they use diatoms as a indicator to see whether acid released in the mines. So
No more questions. Continue.
No more questions. So
So we have
Which type of species is present in freshwater and polluted water? Which type of species
So
present in freshwater water and polluted water?
there are literally hundreds and thousands of species present in clean water. Hundreds of species there in polluted water. So there are pollution tolerant will grow in polluted water and sensitive will grow in clean water. So there are a big list. We can tell a big list.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Shall we close it and then take the next session at 11:30?
11:30 is a bit closer. Can we have 5 more minutes? 11:40?
1:30.
Yeah, no.
11:40.
11:40. Okay, the same link will work or a different link?
The same link will work. The link will be, the session will be still on. You can join if you want to disconnect, and then I will.
Okay. So now I will log out and then I will appear. I will come when you join, sometime with the Vignesh login. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. If any problem, anything is there, just call me on my phone. Huh?
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.